The Marvel Cinematic Universe just released their 41st project that's part of the current canon, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Critics destroyed the film, giving it a 47%, one of the worst scores the MCU has gotten over its 15-year run. But the audience score tells a very different story. Audiences rated it at 83%. Seeing such a drastic difference in opinion, this got me thinking, have there been big differences with the other movies and TV shows in this franchise? To find out just how different fans and critics view the MCU, I put together two different lists. One for how critics rank the 41 projects, and another one for how fans rank them. We're going to compare each and look at fans versus critics for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm excited because I think some of these numbers are going to shock you. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button to help with the algorithm. It will greatly help the channel, meaning I can make more fun videos like this one. Also, before we get into the ranking, I want to clarify that I did not count the Netflix Marvel shows, nor did I count shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Inhumans, and a few other projects, because I'm just counting the ones that fall into the current canon of the MCU. Now that we've cleared that up, let's take a look at all of the rankings. So we'll start with the critics. In dead last at number 41, the critics have Eternals, which they absolutely slaughtered when it came out.
I'm sorry.
While critics had it in dead last, however, fans actually ranked it at number 33 out of 41, 8 spots ahead of critics. At number 40, critics had the most recent MCU film, Ant-Man Quantumania. Meanwhile, fans had it ranked 16 spots up at number 24, so while critics had it at the bottom, fans had it closer to the middle.
What's it gonna be? Ant-Man.
At number 39, critics had another one of the newer films, Thor: Love and Thunder. Meanwhile, fans had this movie 7 spots up at number 32.
What a classic Thor adventure. Hurrah!
At number 38, critics had Thor: The Dark World, which fans were pretty close to agreeing with, as they had it only 1 spot higher at number 37. So fans and critics agree with the ranking of the second Thor film for the most part.
Anyone else?
Meanwhile, number 37 for the critics was the second oldest project in the MCU, The Incredible Hulk. And this is the first one on the list where critics ranked the film higher than fans, as fans had it 2 spots back at number 39. Overall though, being only 2 spots up, there's a fair amount of agreement of where this film falls in the ranking. Number 36 for critics was Iron Man 2, and this is the second time fans ranked the film lower than critics, as they had Iron Man 2 2 spots back at number 38. Again though, pretty similar views for both on where it lands. They both agree it's toward the bottom. At number 35, critics had another more recent project, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This one has a pretty big difference, as fans ranked this one 12 spots ahead of critics at number 23, so fans definitely liked this one more than critics did. Number 34 for critics was the second Avengers movie, Avengers: Age of Ultron, which is a placing that fans didn't really agree with, as they had this film 9 spots up at number 25. At 33, critics put the first Thor movie, which once again is a 2 spot difference from where fans ranked it at number 35. Black Widow falls at number 32 for critics, and shockingly, fans vastly disagreed with this placement, as they ranked it 21 spots higher, Black Widow coming in at number 11 overall for fans. I have to say that I myself did not expect fans to put this movie that high. That was probably one of the biggest shocks when making this video.
Please don't do that.
At number 31, we have our first perfect match, as both fans and critics ranked Iron Man 3 at number 31. And now let's take a moment to compare the fans and critics rankings so far. While we only have one perfect match, fans and critics have 7 of the same movies and shows in the bottom 11. Eternals, Thor: Love and Thunder, Thor: The Dark World, The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor 1, and Iron Man 3. In the bottom 11 for the critics, 6 of them are part of the most recent phase, Phase 4, which has gotten the reputation as the worst phase in the franchise. Meanwhile, fans have only 3 from Phase 4, meaning they're enjoying this new phase more than critics are. Going back to the rankings though, at number 30, critics had Captain Marvel, which fans disagreed with, as they had this film ranked 10 spots back at number 40, meaning fans thought this was the second worst project in the franchise.
Wanna fight?
At number 29, critics had She-Hulk: Attorney at Law, which fans disagree with even more than the last one, as they had the show 12 spots back and in dead last at number 41.
Ew.
These last 2 fan placements are their bottom 2, and they are bottom 2 by a lot if you look at the numbers. Going from 33 and 45% to the next entry, which is 69%, that's a huge difference and really shows how disliked these projects are compared to the rest of the MCU. And looking at the same thing for critics, they too have a big jump from their bottom two, both of which were at 47%, while the next entry jumps all the way up to 63%. It's interesting that both sides have the bottom two much lower than the rest, but neither side had the same two projects in those bottom two spots. At number 28, critics had Captain America: The First Avenger, which fans ranked much lower as it was 8 spots back at number 36. At 27, critics had the first Ant-Man movie, which fans liked a bit better as they ranked it 5 spots higher at number 22.
This is awesome. It's awesome.
Number 26 gives us our second ranking match, as both fans and critics agree that the Falcon and the Winter Soldier lands here.
You should really enjoy this.
I'm going to.
I know you are.
Yeah.
At number 25, critics put one of the more recent projects, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which is vastly different from the fans' ranking, as they had this film 21 spots higher, saying it was the 4th best MCU project of all time.
Is it just me, or does this keep getting uglier?
At number 24, critics had Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which fans had 4 spots higher than critics at number 20. For this next one, we have a ranking that sort of shocked me, as critics put Avengers: Infinity War all the way back at number 23. This is 15 spots lower than where fans ranked it, as they put it as the 8th best project in the MCU. I really thought critics would have put this movie in the top 10, and if not there, at least in the top 20, but I guess not. At number 22, critics put the show Agent Carter, which fans ranked much lower. They put it 12 spots back at number 34. For spot number 21, critics had one of the more recent projects, Moon Knight. Personally, this show was ranked higher than I thought it would be, so I was even more surprised when fans actually ranked it even higher than critics, putting it 6 spots ahead at number 15. Now let's take a step back to again compare the rankings. These 10 spots are a lot less similar than the first 11 were. We again have one perfect match, but other than that, we only see one other project in common, that being Ant-Man. Something fun to point out is that the first Ant-Man for critics is ranked in the same spot as the second Ant-Man for fans. Also, for fans, they have all 3 Ant-Man films ranked between spots 21 and 30. Critics also put 3 out of the 8 shows from Phase 4 in this section of the ranking, while fans put 2 out of the 8 shows, only one of which was the same as critics. Going back to the rankings, at number 20, critics had Ant-Man and the Wasp, which they ranked 7 spots higher than fans did, who ranked the second Ant-Man film where critics ranked the first at number 27.
How could this happen? I mean, what the dickens?
At 19, critics ranked the first Doctor Strange film, which is 2 spots higher than fans did, who ranked it at number 21. And something interesting, this is the 5th example of fans and critics being just 2 spots off in the ranking. Captain America: The Winter Soldier takes the 18th spot for critics, which is significantly lower than where fans ranked it, as they had it 11 spots higher at number 7. In the 17th spot, critics had Captain America: Civil War, which fans ranked higher, putting it 3 spots ahead of critics at number 14. In the 16th spot for critics, they put the second Spider-Man film, Far From Home, which fans also ranked much higher. They had Far From Home as the 3rd best project of the franchise, which is 13 spots higher from where the critics put it.
What just happened?
At number 15, critics put the show WandaVision, which fans ranked slightly lower at number 17. Also, this is the 6th example of fans and critics being just 2 spots off in their ranking. That seems to be a funny pattern forming as we go. At number 14, critics had Shang-Chi: The Legend of the Ten Rings. Meanwhile, fans had this film ranked as the 2nd best MCU project, placing it 12 spots ahead of critics.
It doesn't matter. It matters.
The Avengers, the first big crossover in the franchise, ranks at number 13 for critics. However, I definitely agree more with fans who rank this film at number 10. I for sure believe this movie deserves to be in the top 10 for the MCU.
How about that?
At 12, critics put the show Hawkeye, which is 4 spots ahead of where fans ranked it at number 16. Number 11 for critics was Loki, which is 2 spots higher than where fans ranked it, putting it at number 13. And again, we have our 7th example of fans and critics being just 2 spots off in the ranking. And now let's take a step back and compare the last 10 entries between fans and critics. We have no perfect matches in this stretch of the ranking, but we do have 4 different projects in common: Civil War, WandaVision, Hawkeye, and Loki. This is where fans placed 4 out of the 8 shows that were part of Phase 4, but the order of them sort of shocked me. I definitely thought that WandaVision would either be first or second, but in this stretch of the fans' ranking, it was actually the lowest of the 4, as Hawkeye, Moon Knight, and Loki are all ahead of it. Critics also had both the second and third Captain America movies in this stretch of the ranking, and interestingly, had both of them at 90%, which is very different from the ranking of the first Captain America movie at 80%.
It's getting damn near past time for you to get with that program, Cap.
Don't hold your breath.
Reaching the top 10, critics had Guardians of the Galaxy, which fans also had in the top 10, only it was 4 spots up at number 6.
You said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
At number 9, critics put the first Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, which is actually much higher than where fans ranked it, as they put it 10 spots back at number 19. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special comes in at number 8 for critics, which is way off from where the fans had this. They had it all the way back at number 29, which is a 21 spot difference. This also means that critics had the Guardians Holiday Special ahead of both the first and second film. Meanwhile, fans had both the feature films be way ahead of the Holiday Special, the second one being 9 spots ahead and the first one being 23 spots ahead. At number 7, critics had Spider-Man No Way Home, which fans actually had as the best MCU project of all time, taking the number 1 spot, which is a 6 spot difference from critics. However, they did both agree that No Way Home was the best of the 3 Spider-Man films.
I love you guys.
At number 6, critics had Thor Ragnarok, which is 12 spots ahead of where fans had it at number 18. Again though, they did both agree that it was the best of the 4 Thor movies. In fact, both fans and critics had the other 3 Thor movies in at least the bottom 10, which really shows you how much of an outlier Ragnarok was for both sides.
Not sad, you idiot. I'm pissed off.
Reaching the top 5, both fans and critics agree that the 5th best project was the only animated one on this list, What If, one of the more recent shows that was a big hit.
I'd call this an absolute success.
At number 4, critics had the first movie to ever be made for the MCU, Iron Man. Meanwhile, fans had this film 4 spots back at number 9, but both fans and critics agree that the movie that started it all deserves to be in the top 10. At number 3, critics had my personal favorite MCU project, Avengers Endgame, which is 9 spots ahead of where fans put it at number 12, which is something that really surprised me. I honestly thought that fans would have this at number 1, and if not there, at least in the top 10, but I guess not. Black Panther took the number 2 spot for critics, which is a huge jump from the fans' ranking of the film, actually giving us the biggest gap in the video. Fans ranked this 28 spots back at number 30.
You are wrong. All of you are wrong!
And reaching the number 1 spot, we have another wildly different conclusion between fans and critics. Critics had Ms. Marvel as the best MCU project, which I definitely do not agree with. And neither do most fans, as they ranked it 27 spots back at number 28, which sounds more accurate if you ask me. Analyzing the top 10, we have 1 perfect match and 4 total projects in common: Guardians of the Galaxy, No Way Home, What If, and Iron Man. It's interesting that critics had the first Black Panther at the top, while fans had the second Black Panther at the top. Meanwhile, both had the other Black Panther movie much lower in the ranking. There are also 2 Spider-Man movies in the top 10 for both, but fans swapped Homecoming out for Far From Home. In the top 10 for fans, 5 of the projects are post-Endgame. Meanwhile, critics had 4 projects post-Endgame, that is if you don't count Endgame itself. Going over some takeaways from this chart, looking at percentages, the number 1 spot for both fans and critics was 98%, but the lowest for critics was 47%, while the lowest for fans was 33%. This shows us that fans have a much larger difference in their ratings for the franchise than critics do. Also, we looked at how many projects were equal in this ranking, and we came out with 3: Iron Man 3, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and What If. But how do percentages for each ranking match up? Interestingly, there are actually 9 matches when looking at this, as both 33s are at 77%, both number 30s are at 79%, both 29s are at 80%, both 28s are also at 80%, both 23s are at 85%, both 21s are at 86%, both 20s are at 87%, both number 4s are at 94%, and both number 1s are at 98%. And speaking of percentages, how many of the movies and TV shows had the same percent for fans and critics on Rotten Tomatoes? There are actually 3 examples of this, with Guardians of the Galaxy at 92%, The Avengers at 91%, and Iron Man 2 at 71%. Meanwhile, the farthest away percentage-wise was She-Hulk, which had a 47% difference. Overall, it's clear that fans of comic book movies view these films very differently than critics do. We take into account the comics these movies and TV shows are based on, which the critics do not do whatsoever. I think that makes a big difference in most cases. However, I don't think that's the only divide, as evidenced by the most recent Ant-Man film. That was less about the source material and more about fans and critics just bumping heads about a movie. Ultimately though, the MCU is a juggernaut in the industry and might just be the most successful franchise of all time. No matter what the reviews say, whether it's from fans or critics, the MCU is not going anywhere anytime soon.